Sandra's heart pounded in her chest as a sense of dread gripped her. She could feel the cold rush of fear rising in her throat, her mind screaming for her to escape. The dark figure following her was like the villain from a nightmare, closing in too quickly, matching her every move. Her neighborhood was far from ideal, but it was all she could afford with her meager salary as a waitress. There were only two things that provided her with any sense of security at home: the heavy steel door with multiple locks and her German shepherd, Bear. Bear, a retired police dog, had become her guardian after she adopted him through a friend's connections. Though he'd slowed down in his older years, his instincts remained sharp, and his loyalty unshakable. Tonight, however, it seemed like she would need all of his training. The familiar feeling of paranoia crept in as Sandra made her way toward the only ATM she felt safe using in the area. She knew she couldn't put off paying her landlord any longer. The path wasn't easy. There were areas known for crime that she had to navigate carefully. As she turned a corner, a group of men sitting on a doorstep caught her eye. They were loud, their boisterous voices and music filling the street. Their menacing presence, combined with their weapons, made her stomach turn. She quickened her pace, trying to get away from their gaze, but one of them noticed her, and the catcalls began. The crude comments echoed in her mind, reminding her of the unsettling news stories she'd heard. Fear gripped her heart, and she could feel her legs move faster as she tried to shake off the encounter. A few blocks later, she thought she had finally gotten away, but then, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed something. A man, just a shadow at first, slowly came into view under the flickering streetlight. He was following her. Sandra's grip tightened on Bear's leash. Her dog was alert, sensing something was wrong. She wondered if one of the men from earlier had decided to track her down. Her heart raced, and her mind scrambled for a solution. She picked up the pace, heading toward the gas station where the ATM was located, hoping to make it there without incident. But as she reached the machine, she saw him clearly now. The man was definitely shadowing her. Panic flooded her system, and instinct took over. The man came too close, hovering just outside the door of the gas station, and Sandra could smell the mix of his cologne and cigarette smoke. The space between them felt suffocating, and she knew she had to act fast. "Protect!" she commanded Bear, her voice trembling with urgency. In an instant, Bear went into protective mode. He positioned himself between Sandra and the man, lowering his head and letting out a deep, menacing growl. The man, startled, took a few steps back. Sandra's eyes locked onto his, and she saw the hesitation in his gaze. He wasn't sure what to do next. "I'm sorry, little lady," he muttered, raising his hands. "Didn't mean to scare you. Just distracted." Sandra's tension didn't immediately dissipate, but at least he wasn't advancing. She couldn't help herself, her anger bubbled over. "You shouldn't follow someone like that," she snapped. The man seemed taken aback but nodded in agreement. He apologized, explaining that he was only there for the same ATM. His words surprised her, and for a moment, she realized not everyone felt safe in the world the way she did. As she quickly finished her transaction, the man pulled out a business card and handed it to her. He mentioned he was a bike repairman and, in a kind gesture, offered to walk her home or help if she ever needed it. "Never know when you'll need someone," he said. Sandra, despite her initial wariness, found herself holding onto the card. It was an odd feeling, this brief moment of trust with a stranger who, only minutes before, had felt like a threat. Walking back to her apartment, she glanced down at Bear. He was back to his calm, alert state, her faithful companion, always by her side, ready to protect her from whatever danger lurked. With a grateful smile, she gave Bear a treat and scratched behind his ears. He responded with a loving lick. Sandra knew one thing for sure. She was incredibly lucky to have him.